Hello and welcome back to Outside Views. Today we're looking at the real price the British are paying for Brexit. 5 years after leaving the EU, the economic, social and political consequences are impossible to ignore. The promises made by Brexit supporters never materialized, and Britain is facing stagnation, declining trade and rising costs. And let's start with trade. Before Brexit, exporting to the EU was simple, fast and cost-effective. Now it's a bureaucratic nightmare. Small businesses once thriving on EU trade have been forced to shut down or scale back their operations. A study by the London School of Economics found that 16,400 UK businesses have completely stopped trading with the EU. For those that continue, additional paperwork and custom costs have made it increasingly difficult to stay competitive. Take Round Corner Brewery as an example. In 2018, exporting beer to Ireland, France, Italy and Spain cost just £20 per shipment. Today, due to tariffs and bureaucratic red tape, those same shipments are no longer viable. And this is the reality for thousands of businesses across the UK. Brexit was supposed to boost global trade, but it has done the opposite. And what about new trade deals? Brexit supporters claimed that leaving the EU would open the door to lucrative trade agreements worldwide. The reality? The UK has only signed a handful of deals, mainly with Australia, New Zealand, and let's not forget the Trans-Pacific Partnership. A free trade agreement with the United States, once a major selling point for Brexit, remains out of reach. And with Donald Trump returned to power, the UK now faces potential tariffs and trade barriers instead. And these trade losses have had a direct impact on the UK economy. The Office for Budget Responsibility estimates that Brexit has reduced economic growth by 4%. While the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine have also played a role, the economic damage from Brexit is undeniable. The UK was once a top destination for foreign investment, but Brexit uncertainty has made it less attractive. Companies that once saw Britain as a gateway to Europe have moved their operations elsewhere. Automotive manufacturers, financial services and tech firms have all relocated jobs and investments to the EU. Investment in Britain has also declined. Before Brexit, the UK benefited from the European Investment Bank, which funded major infrastructure projects. In 2016 alone, Britain received £8 billion in funding. And since leaving the EU, the UK has had to rely on domestic institutions, which provide only a third of that amount. This investment gap has made it harder to modernize infrastructure, grow industries and compete globally. And farmers have also been hit hard. The EU provided significant subsidies and guaranteed access to European markets. Now, British farmers are struggling to replace lost income and adapt to a more complex trade system. A survey by Farmers Weekly found that 70% of farmers feel Brexit has negatively impacted their businesses. Many have seen their export markets shrink, and supply chain disruptions have led to increased costs. And let's not forget the cost of living. Food prices have risen by 25%, and while inflation and supply chain disruptions play a role, Brexit has made things worse. Import delays, labor shortages, and increased tariffs have pushed up prices for everyday goods. The people who were promised a financial windfall from Brexit are now paying more for essentials. Supermarkets face constant disruptions, and shoppers have fewer choices at higher prices. But Brexit's impact goes beyond economics. The NHS has suffered from the loss of EU healthcare professionals, leading to longer waiting times and staffing shortages. The education sector has also been hit hard, with UK universities seeing a significant drop in EU students since the UK left the Erasmus programme. British students have lost access to easy study opportunities in Europe, limiting their global exposure and career prospects. And despite all this, Brexit remains politically untouchable. Labour's Keir Starmer, now in power, has chosen not to reopen the Brexit debate. Instead, his government is focusing on incremental improvements to EU relations. But without full access to the single market, Britain will continue to lag behind its European neighbours. Many Britons now regret Brexit, and polls consistently show that the majority believe leaving the EU was a mistake. Yet, joining the EU again is not on the table for any major political party. The fear of reopening old wounds keeps politicians from addressing the reality of Brexit's failures. So what did Britain gain from Brexit? Well, the answer remains unclear. The economy is weaker, trade has shrunk, and living costs are higher. Instead of the promised golden future, the UK is paying a steep price for leaving the EU. And while politicians refuse to talk about joining the EU again, the long-term costs of Brexit continue to rise. But what happens next? The UK is likely to continue making small adjustments to its EU relationship while avoiding the bigger question of reintegration. Businesses, consumers and workers will bear the burden of Brexit's failures with no clear path to recovery. So thank you for watching Outside Views, and if you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments below the video. See you next time, and the next video is right here in the end screen.